Hey, Prof.
What's happening?
I don't know. I think everybody's busy, but we're here.
Okay.
How's everything?
Okay.
Yeah. How was this week?
Simo, Simo. Yeah. Liberian Studies so.
Is this your last class?
Last class for,
This semester?
yeah, I mean, exams are over. I mean, maybe one or two are still taking exams, but this is the exam week is like uh, going to the end. Yeah. So
Uh,
actually, by Monday next week, I think grades are supposed to be in.
so are you gonna do you I know you're a harsh grader.
I
has
know. I
has
try to work within what is given. The thing about it is when people want to compare the past to the present, then that's a problem. But anyway, that's a different matter.
what I'm saying is like, has time tempered you? Are you tempered now?
But the thing about it, what I do, I mean, is not my joy. you know, well, unfortunately, people don't understand. It's not my joy to, but if things that were supposed to be done are not done clearly because of
Uh,
a little softness and what have you, then of course it's on the people, not on me.
no, 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 no. I just wondered. Some people, as time goes by, they get tempered. They're like, oh, let me just try and just um help the
But the thing
people.
about it is, education is a different matter. I can be generous with food if I have. If I can be generous with, I mean, I look at my own background. I had my own angst with professors, but I put them behind me. you know, I put them behind me.
Yes,
Sometimes I probably might have been playful or probably did not understand that matter. And so what they gave me, I just tolerated it and move on.
yeah.
So,
I think that as time goes by, we get tempered. I think
well, yeah,
so.
some do. I mean, but especially when it comes to education, it's a different, like I said, it's a different ball game. You see, because I always say, my own father was my teacher. If he had played with me, I wouldn't be the little that I do. I wouldn't have known it. So that's the measurement I use. It may not be uh, what others use, but that's a different ball game. Anyway, so where are we?
Yeah. So well, we are going to talk about the Liberian Studies Association.
Yeah.
You know, about the review. We're going to do a review.
Mm.
Um, I guess best practices, things that we should look out for, things that we should avoid. I think we're
Well,
going to do that.
yeah, but I'm doing. It's more of a reflection, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's more of a
yeah,
reflection because everyone did his or her own best,
yes.
and what we got out of it and all that. I think that's what we should be um, talking about in the area of education, health, history, the problem of finding sources, farming, agriculture, the environment, climate change.
They
May-
uh
Maybe
uh
I need to start off in
yes.
a small way by saying that, the Liberian Studies Association is a forum for serious conversation. Serious conversation. We go in there to look at themes that need a second round of observation. We go in there to bring out new themes We go in there to actualize and demonstrate the importance of useful dialogue and conversation. And it is within that context that we have these annual conferences. And what, as a result of our attendance, we hold dearly and what we don't hold dearly. And to say we don't hold dearly doesn't mean that they are not important, except that, we have our own, given the fact that every individual has his or her own perspective about things.
So I think I should put the oh, I hope it's there. Yeah. So the Liberian Studies Association, the theme this year was repositioning Liberia's development,
Yes.
dynamism, innovation, and
Yeah.
challenges in the new millennium.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that was our task to
Yeah.
discuss this, and the conference was held April 27th to the 29th
Uh-huh.
at North Carolina Central University.
Yeah. Which was a very, very expansive place. All the buildings here and there, all that. Uh,
Okay, so I mean, I guess for me, every time you say review,
mm,
I think on criticism, but of
mm.
course, like you say, it's just a reflection.
Yeah, reflection. What they did, what they said, and what the outcome, at least from our end, was. There there were a lot of creative ideas thrown out there that, you know, especially, for instance, if you talk about Kerry Banton
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
the creative edge of finding sources. Who would have thought that sources would be found in pottery, uh, the earthenware jars, and all those? Who would have thought about breadfruit trees and all those? And
Yes. Yes.
yeah, following up on uh, what they've been able to kind of reveal as far as the existence of the settler group is concerned.
I think if we go session by session,
Yeah, okay, that'll be fine.
yeah, and discuss the themes of each session as
Mhm.
pertain to their discipline.
That would be fine.
But first, the first one is the theme, which is repositioning Liberia's development.
Mm-hmm.
So repositioning, you talk about when we were driving back. That's a heavy term, repositioning.
Yeah.
So what comes to mind when they say repositioning Liberia's development?
Well, as soon as that is done, I create an image of furniture in the home.
Yeah.
I create an image of furniture in the home, moving one set of furniture or pieces of furniture from one end to the other. In other words, being able to position uh, perspectives, conclusions in such a way that there might be an alignment. There might be an alignment as far as, yes, thank goodness we have reached this point now. So so you talk about repositioning, you talk about new perspective, thinking about new perspectives, uh, about certain things we had known about, and we want to have. It's more like re-engineering, making things anew. So that is what I see as far as repositioning is concerned. And the question is, did many of them do well in terms of the repositioning? Yes. in terms of even talking about our approaches to sources, history has to do with sources. History has to do with evidence. The question is, what evidence are we prepared to uphold? What evidence are we prepared to find to add to the evidence that's already available? So if you talk about Yolanda, right?
Yeah,
Miss
Yolanda.
Ward, yeah, Yolanda, and she talks about uh, she provided her own presentation within the context of Liberia's heritage and its evolving present. So that's a big theme that she and few others work on, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. There were two in that area, Banton and Ward.
Okay, for those who weren't at the conference, we'll go step by step, and we'll show you that, like Prof said, the first oops, Prof,
Theme.
I've lost. Okay, the first discussion centered on Liberia's past and the evolving present,
Yeah.
and Prof, as I sat in the conference, I felt very sad that it seemed as if, and I'm not being judgmental on Liberians, but it seemed as if that there's a dearth of desire
Mm-hmm.
to want to know
Mm-hmm.
about our country.
Yeah.
It's like when somebody asks me, oh, who should I vote for? I look at the person, and I say to them, I'm not you. My
Okay.
lived experiences are not yours.
Mm-hmm.
Is your life better today?
Mm-hmm.
And will the country be better?
Yeah.
Once you can answer those two questions,
Mm-hmm.
you don't need me.
Yeah.
And when I sit down and I listen to all of these academics and practitioners, not everybody there was an academic,
Mm-hmm.
but it is an academic conference, but there are some people who are practitioners.
Yeah.
But it's like I learned so much year after year going to the LSA, that when I meet somebody and I tell them about the LSA, and all the good things I get out of it, it's almost like, don't you want to know?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you desire
Yeah.
to know about Liberia? So the first panel, I'm going to post it for people who didn't come to it. So the first one was Liberia's heritage, and I'm going to move the time because that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that was Yolanda Covington Ward. So
Yeah.
so Yolanda spoke on the Congos, and it was very insightful.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about the Congos, how they were brought into the Americo-Liberian system because they felt that they were more amiable than the
Yeah.
indigenous. It was very, very interesting
And,
listening to her.
and it was one of the things that came out listening to her was this whole idea of one of the weapons. Religion was one of the weapons used
Yes, yes, of course,
to
yes,
diminish
yes,
the value of the indigenous and to draw a divide that will make any other person coming after the settlers to fall on the side of the settlers than on the side of the indigents.
yes,
That's the vocabulary, the semantics used by someone like Cromwell, Lord Kerry and all those people there to make sure that these people, the Congos, saw their position as being a little higher than that of the indigenous. And therefore, the Congos, were making sure that they would just make it clear that they were not part of the indigenous group and what have you.
Then we had like you said, we had uh, Carrie Banton, Professor Carrie
Gary
Banton,
Banton, Gary
yeah,
Banton.
who
Yeah.
talk about the different ways,
Yes.
of
The,
finding things, the different
the,
sources, the untraditional
yeah, that's the key thing.
forms of
You know,
record keeping. Yeah.
people will talk about documents and what have you, but no, natural things and all those things, you've got to be able to bring them in to make sure that the evidence is widened and what have you.
Yes. And
So
she was the one who wrote for Auspicious Shores, the Barbadian migration to Liberia.
yes,
Yeah,
you
she's
know.
the same author. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I also, as I was listening to her, I was thinking about the importance of triangulation. So
Yes.
if you are doing qualitative research, it is not just one set of documents. It is so many things at once. So if you bring in evidence from farming or agriculture, if you bring things from pottery, earthenware and uh, all those things have stories to tell, and the
Yes.
stories they tell should be able to add on to the evidence with respect to the constructing a broad-based uh, historical research for the various populations in in the country called Liberia. So that was very creative. I thought it was very creative.
Yeah. Then we moved on to health and development,
Yes,
and
yes,
we had our own Tobo Niswa
yes,
talking about surveillance and response systems
yes.
post the Ebola.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in fact,
And that was
even though it's more of Ebola, but it's got to be for all major diseases that sprung up in the country.
yes, yes,
Because he pointed out that uh, with what they did with Ebola, when COVID came in,
yes,
it was a relatively smooth ride.
yes.
Which was very much important. So we have to make sure that we have a strong system in place that will ensure that the governmental actors will make sure they have a strong system that will go out there into the community, and with that collaboration of members of the community, great things as far as diminishing the impact of the diseases might come about. You see, so he did well within that context. That would just lead on to Mary Moran's presentation,
Yes.
which had to do with mental health.
Yeah, among Liberian ex-combatants.
Yes, among Liberian ex-combatants and the views of non-combatants
Yes.
in terms of dealing with that, which I found, you know, w- what is going on now in the country with young people and older people, you know, engaged in some of the disastrous things that are happening in the country. We would think that these are things to laugh about, but they have their roots in mental health. And it is very much important for people to have someone to have uh, hoisted the importance of paying attention to mental health policies and support regimes to deal with such things.
And Prof, listening to Mary and Tolbert, it is repositioning
Hmm.
Liberia, because if you're looking at the needs of the mental health needs of Liberian ex-combatants in
Yes,
the view of
yes,
non-combatant men,
yes, yes,
so the men who didn't fight,
yes,
they're telling you these are the things that we see.
yes,
These are the needs of the Liberian men who fought.
yes,
Things that probably the men might not tell women or might not tell
yes,
other people, they
yes,
might tell their friend who are men.
precisely.
And then with Talbert's, okay, we battle Ebola, and this is what we have. So now
Yes,
Liberia is repositioned to
yes,
be able to
yes,
adequately deal with any other major pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah. So so
So
so it was very interesting listening to both of them.
mhm,
Yeah. Yeah.
the whole idea that they should keep, government functionaries should keep strong in terms of,
Yes.
always, it's more of always visiting what you've put in place. So if you cannot revisit and ensure that uh, the protocols you put in place are strong, then there is a problem. You see, there is a
Yeah.
problem. People have to keep fully engaged.
Yeah. And then, of course, we move on to student radicalization and educational outcomes,
Okay,
right?
before we get there,
Uh huh.
Gami Vopawo, Gami
He did not.
Vopawo, the thing,
Yeah.
uh,
No,
the
no,
thing.
no, because no, he was unable
Okay,
to
okay.
come. Yeah, so he
But
didn't
I thought if he did come, I thought the whole idea of the sources of some of these diseases coming out of people's engagement with animals, you
Yeah.
know, being very cautious in how people engage with animals, dogs, and all those was very much important if you had come on to stress that part.
Yeah, and I think that like you say, it's all in a matter of repositioning. I think that long ago they used to give the dogs rabies shots. The
Yes.
dogs around there.
Uh-huh.
And I think
Uh-huh.
that because rabies is a deadly,
Yes,
it's
it's deadly,
deadly. It's 100% fatal. So I
Uh-huh.
mean, yeah,
You
well,
see,
99%, because if you get there in time, you
yes,
can you can
you
get
can,
the yeah,
yes.
and there are a lot of stray dogs
Uh-huh.
around.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so.
And Evan too,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
but but I think Elvin was, yeah, Elvin actually. I mean,
was
we'll come to him because those presentations were from Liberia, so we're just grouping them. But
uh,
his was good too. And
health,
Prof,
health and development, yes.
I think that we should really encourage young students, young people, not just students, but young emerging scholars
Yeah.
who are in Liberia, and they take their money and they buy data and they
Mhm.
present
Yeah.
here. I mean, they should really be. And Elvin's paper was very good.
Yes.
I mean,
High
his
mortality
his
rate.
yeah, his
Mhm.
PowerPoint didn't show, but
Mhm.
he owned his PowerPoint. He was
Yeah.
able to explain
Yeah.
what was
Yeah.
on his PowerPoint.
Mhm.
We have to
Mhm.
really be able to encourage these young
Yeah.
these young
Yeah.
scholars.
Yes.
And then, of course, we come to student radicalization and educational outcomes. And the first one was Professor Soma,
Yes.
right? Who was
Yeah.
who was or is
Yeah.
he?
He talked about the sources, the social, political, and economic sources of the voices and forces that radicalize students.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
going all the way from the start of the the of the start of Liberian history, and then bringing it all the way through the war and after the war.
And of course, I found Robert Romel's Horton, the president of Cottington.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
her presentation was very good.
Hobbes, the what she presented, was very insightful. It demonstrated an institution that is really on the move.
Yes, yes,
The idea that the the school is focused on the changing scenes in terms of technology and learning, and talking about their move to establish a doctoral program,
yes, yes,
a doctoral program. Now, the University of Liberia probably is unfair to compare those things, but even at a superficial level, it is very much important for us to see what the lady is doing with the institute. She and her team are doing with the institution coordinator. You know, at this time of our existence, yes, there's been war and what have you, but at this time of our existence, the idea that the University of Liberia will not have even one doctoral program, it's a sad thing. It's a sad thing.
And also you see what happens when you choose somebody for competence
Mm.
to have, and that person is a visionary, as
Yes, yes,
opposed to just putting anybody there because the person is close to you or your
yeah,
relative
yeah,
or
yeah.
related to your party affiliation.
Yeah, yeah,
And then the university,
yeah.
and we discussed the university. It was once a beacon of light,
Yes,
and now the
yes,
university is slowly dying.
yeah, yeah.
It's overcrowded, the qualities are low. They are
Mm-hmm.
graduating people who,
Yeah,
some of them can't even write a paper,
yeah, yeah.
competently. So it was very refreshing to listening to
So,
Dr.
so
Horton
that
talk
Dr.
about the
Horton.
ecosystem, the
Yes.
ecosystem of Liberia's education sector,
Yeah.
but to locate Cuttington and
Yeah.
say this is one of the brightest stars
Yes.
within
Yes.
that educational system, within
Yes.
that ecosystem.
Mm.
Yeah, it was really good.
And
Yeah.
and the thing about it too, we're talking about the type of leaders put in place. Maybe one of the things that would adversely impact leadership at the university will have to be the the hovering of political leaders
Yes. Yes.
over academia.
Yes.
It has got to be. In fact, when Doe brought in uh, Yerkeson and the other group, yes, they themselves were trying their best, but with Doe being someone who was intruding into the running of the institution, several things were not up to par. It was, you will remember that it was during uh, that leadership that Doe was given his bachelor's degree, summa cum laude, and all that kind of a thing
Yes.
there,
Yes.
you know.
Yes. Yeah, Elvis, I think my camera lens has water in it because I have wiped it and I have wiped it and it's still not doing anything. So thank you for telling me to clean my camera lens, my camera lens. But I cannot because yeah, there's it's what I think is blurry, but it's waterlogged. There's nothing I can do, Elvis. But thank
Oh,
you.
uh-huh.
I tried. I
Yeah.
tried.
Mhm.
So okay, so we go on to Michael Wana,
Yes,
who
yes.
improving the Liberian school system to create opportunities for all students. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'll sit up. I think maybe that would make it easier. But I think it's water yeah. Okay.
The
Mhm.
Yeah, the thing about it, especially with Dr. Warner's presentation, he brought out ideas related to the need for financial and material support
Yes.
to ensure productive learning and what have you. Unfortunately, the extent to which that can be achieved is another thing we can talk about.
And then we come to sovereignty and indigenous institutions. And this,
Yeah,
this, I really enjoy this panel, Prof. You
yes,
should allow me. Let me sit up in case people can see. You should allow me to wax poetic on this
go
panel
ahead. Yes.
because I really really enjoy this panel.
Mhm.
So the first one was what it was called National Sovereignty and Indigenous Institutions, but
Yeah,
Lee Gardner's um, paper on sovereignty without power, Liberia in
yeah,
the Age of Empires. Now
yes,
that's the title of her book.
yes.
So I will advise everybody to purchase Lee's book.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Uh,
her paper was very good.
as she worked on the paper, my mind ran to Greg Midman.
Yes, actually,
Yeah.
Prof, guess what?
Uh-huh.
My Facebook reminded me it's been 1 year since we interviewed Greg Bittman.
Is that right? Yes.
Yep, 1 year
And
today.
and you know that she mentioned something about Brown, George
Yes, I
Brown.
remember.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
George Brown,
yeah,
the young
George Brown.
student,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
young
George student
student.
who went
Yes,
out there and saw the significance of indigenous economic activities and what
yes,
have you.
yes.
And she quoted or kind of highlighted Brown's work. Now, her paper actually addressed things about the many ways in which uh, Liberia tried as much as possible to maneuver her way through the clash of superpower politics in the country.
Yeah, I'm actually looking for the book, but I mean, her book was very good.
Yes.
And actually, it's funny, and we always talk about this how Liberia seems to be in almost every facet
Mm.
of global politics,
Yeah,
because she
yeah.
said that she came to know about Liberia quite by accident.
Yes.
And then she started
Yeah,
to
we do.
investigate Africa, I mean Liberia. So it was
Yeah.
it was quite interesting when she said that. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's called uh Lee Gardner. I'll put the book so people can see it, and maybe if they want to purchase it. It's called Sovereignty Without Power:
Mm-hmm.
Liberia in the Age of Empire. Quite a good book.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the thing about it is the the paradox has its own pain and pleasure. How can someone have sovereignty and yet not have power?
Yes. Yes.
And I think at the center of it is the the strength of economics.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yes.
you have sovereignty and yet don't have power, it means that those that are outside of your reach, they are the people that have the power and therefore sadly can dictate the extent to which you can develop as a nation.
Yes.
And if we bring all those things into place, we see how Liberia, to a large extent, yes, bragged about sovereignty and all that kind of a thing, but the Americans, the British, even to some extent the French, and even the Germans, they were the people who were controlling things about economic development of the country.
Yeah, and she showed that, it was actually Liberia was actually walking a tightrope,
Yes.
playing one against the other, trying
Mm-mm.
to survive, trying
Yes.
not to, yeah. So
Yeah.
it was very,
Try not
it
to
was,
rock the boat and all that.
yeah,
Yes.
yes,
We saw
yes,
that again in the Greg Midman book. We
yes,
saw how uh, uh, Firestone was calling the shots.
yeah, yeah.
We saw how Firestone was calling the shots.
And then of course we come to the second and third presenters, and that's on the Poro and Sandy Society.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes,
Again,
continuing
that
the dialogue between Poro and the state.
yes, and you know, the whole idea of
Yes,
collaboration between the so-called sovereign nation, which was Liberia, and the the population and partnerships of indigenous institutions.
yes,
Now, one of the things they made note of had to do with how the collaboration became meaningful, especially in post-war Liberia. You know, if you wanted conflict resolution and all that, or not. I don't like the term conflict resolution, but conflict management. Then, of course, the indigenous populations had a role to play, and tracing that history was something that was very much insightful.
And for me, I think listening to Josh, and for those of you who weren't there, there was this young British student. I think he was less than 25 years old, young,
Yeah, yeah.
and he dissected. Let me put it that way. The Poro and Poro Society
Nakoro and Sunday,
and
yeah.
Sandy and Liberians. I sat there and I was so sad also because we always talk. And oh, the Sandy Society has to go, the Poro Society has to go, and this
Mm-hmm.
young British man, young
Mm-hmm.
boy,
Mm-hmm.
stood there
Mm-hmm.
and told us, look, yes, FGM is bad, it has to go, but here are the structures
Yeah,
in the secret societies
yeah,
that can be used
yeah,
for good governance.
yeah, yeah,
Do not throw the baby out with the bad water.
yeah. The
These
thing,
structure
yeah, yeah,
are embedded in
mhm,
these societies,
yeah,
and you can use them
yeah,
in your formalized
mhm,
government structure. Prof,
yeah,
I sat there listening to that
yeah.
young man, and I was like, why
And
is it that this guy is not, he and JCN, I mean, I told JCN, thank you for
mm,
bringing this young man, because sometimes you sit and you just listen to, I'm sorry, Prof, I'm going to go to tirade, to damn nonsense, excuse my language, on
mm,
this Facebook, and
yeah,
people talk without knowing anything. They just blabber,
yeah, just,
and listening to a well articulated, well researched paper. Jason and Josh,
mm,
I mean, all of the presenters did excellent work,
yeah.
every one of them. But this was a very good paper.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that, I mean, I related to that significantly because, having gone to law school and, one of the courses being that of African customary law and the very facets of that course, understanding them, you will not make the mistake that others make when they talk about the indigenous institutions and the indigenous culture. Uh, this, what you call it, feminine what, MC, FMC, is that MC?
No, female genital mutilation,
Yes,
FGM.
we see the thing about it. That is not all to the culture.
Yes,
That
yes.
is not all to the culture. But all of a sudden, when people misguidedly bring religion and all those things in, then the best thing they think they can do is condemn the entire thing, which
Yes.
is not a very, very you know very it- which is not a very good approach. This is not, which is not a very good approach.
But
You've got
Prof,
to,
what's happened? Oh, sorry.
yeah,
I
you've got
waited.
to be able to broaden your scope of analysis. And in broadening your scope of analysis, you will be able to deal with certain things which may not be useful, yet many other things are useful, and you must be able to state that. Failing to do that, that's a problem.
And
Mm.
that's what Josh said. He said that there are secret societies. You have the Masons, you have these fraternities,
Yeah,
but soon as you come to Africa and people
yeah,
say Bush school,
yeah,
and
that's
as
it.
Dr. Soma said, it was Bush because it happened in the forest.
Well, which is even
But
not.
then he talked about these masks.
Uh-huh.
They were never called devil mask.
Mm-hmm.
It was only when the other people
Westerners,
came,
Westerners, yes, Westerners.
Westerners came, then they say devil.
Yeah,
But I mean,
that's
this
ignorance.
was a very good paper. I
That's
really, I really enjoyed the paper.
that's ignorance,
Yeah.
and until we get to the point of uh, demystifying the ignorance and what have you, we will always have a lot of poor judgment about things we know nothing about.
Yeah, and then the next paper, we had two presenters from Liberia,
Hmm.
and thanks to them because they got up early,
Yeah.
and they paid for their own data to
Okay.
present. The first one was Elvin, and this is the one we talk about the prevalence of infant mortality
Yeah,
among
that's
babies.
right. Yes,
You
yes.
know,
Hmm.
and yeah, it was a very good paper. And one of the sad things was when I asked him the question, you know like this paper, is it informing,
Hmm.
the health department, and
Yes,
and he
yes,
said, oh, he will try.
yes.
We have to have research centers in Liberia
Hmm. Hmm.
so that they inform the ministries, and they inform policies.
Hmm.
This whole semester, that's what we talk about at my university. We focus on science
Hmm.
and how it influences policy.
Yeah.
And then you have a country where there's no planning department.
Hmm.
So how do
No,
they
well,
plan?
yeah, well, they have, and that's what they bungle together as the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development Planning or something of that sort.
Okay,
But
I would.
there was a unit at the University of Liberia, which whenever you got on the second floor of Tubman 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 Hall, the Institute Re- Institute of Research.
Mhm.
Yes, I think Dr. Sawyer at one time headed that, and a few other people did. So that, for instance, if you want to do research related to human subjects, it will be a unit like that you will go to. But I don't know what the status is now at the University of Liberia.
Yeah. So the next one was, which I found very interesting, from the bedroom to the
Hmm.
digi space, exploring Liberian online
Oh,
sex jokes
sexual
and
joke.
humor. Yeah, he talked
Yeah.
about, Prof. I mean, even now, they are trying to bring a bill in Congress to how you call it, control social
Mm.
media among 15-year-old and below. And he's showing that, the social media is a very dangerous place because
Yeah.
they exchange a lot of sexual humor
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that then creates this
Appetite for
toxic
whatever.
environment. When people start to talk about rape, you
Mm.
know and I would say, they say, oh, because the way the people dress. No, our mothers, our ancestors used to just tie lapa.
Mm.
Nobody used to drag them to go rape them.
Mm.
It's this social media that
Yes.
these young people have
Mm.
pornography on their
Mm.
phone,
Mm.
you know and then
Yeah.
they go out looking. So this was a very interesting. And he said he's not finished with the project, he's not finished with
Yeah.
his research,
Mm.
but it was very interesting,
Mm.
his take on this online sex jokes and humor.
Mm.
Yeah,
But
Professor Barton.
the thing about it is that rape, there is a multiplicity of sources from which people draw ideas to kind of test them out. Sadly, test them out on people here and there. So yes, social media is just one strong source uh, that inspires rape and things like that.
And then of course, we have Herbert Brewer. We talk about, actually it was a panel, and
Yeah,
the panel was on
re,
rereading the colonial archive,
no,
right?
rethinking Liberian history,
Rethinking Liberian
new,
history, yes.
new
And
directions.
um, uh, so he spoke about the case of the 1823 remonstrance. And then we
Mm.
had, actually, one of them was, Liberia History in Motion.
Yes,
Cassandra, Mrs.
yes,
Mark's daughter. Sorry,
daughter, yeah.
Cassandra. That's
Mhm.
how I referred to you, Mrs. Mark's daughter. And
Yeah.
that the ELBC had turned over to her all of
Mhm.
these um, little snippets
Yes.
of film,
The-
and we got to see a lot of them. Kwame Clement, Jassy
mhm.
Bertrand, when they were very young, You
Yeah,
know, a lot of
that's a very that is a very important responsibility that they place on her shoulders. Uh, this is like reclaiming history.
yes,
Reclaiming history is like a form of excavation.
yes, yes.
Yeah, being able to draw, and I impressed with the work she's begun to do with it, and I sense a level of seriousness that she brings to that project, and I wish her well in dealing with that. Wish her well in dealing with, and that also falls into the section of Dr. Brewer. This whole idea that we have to be very serious in developing appropriate responses to evolving evidence and all that kind of a thing.
Yeah, because whenever somebody says, I know
Hmm.
this is my version and accept it. And
Yes,
whenever like I always say, question everything. And when I
yes,
start doing that, people get angry. I'm like, well, why should you get
mm,
angry? If you say that this is so, let me do my own research.
yeah,
Maybe I might find out that it is true what you
yeah,
say. But I'm a curious person. I want to
yeah.
know for myself,
Now,
and I
curiosity
will
is
do
very
my
much
research.
important in the realm of history.
But he started by saying
Mhm.
Liberia's history is a contested one, which is true.
Yeah,
You know, there's so many different versions of
yeah,
Liberian history
mhm,
that it's how,
yes,
who to believe. Where's the fair representation? I want
yes.
to know.
Hmm.
So that was a very interesting panel. Let's go quickly. The next one is electoral campaign, the constitutional right to
Yes.
appeal and that's Professor Councillor Jones. So Councillor Jones, it was very technical, but
Councillor,
you're a lawyer,
Councillor
so
Jones, yeah, the foundation to what he presented is that of the importance of ensuring decisions that are made are authentic, decisions that are made are fair enough. Within the context of law, we talk about judicial review and things of that nature. And until we can provide the opportunities for people to appeal, making sure that a particular decision uh, can really stand the test of time, it is very much important. Our legal practice, the Anglo American legal practice, uh, focuses on the law of precedence. If people have the opportunities to appeal and all that kind of a thing, that at some point helps strengthen uh, the cogency of decisions. And therefore, when people refer to them in terms of the law of precedence, then that is very much important. Another aspect he made mention of, which has to do with uh, the extent to which people are not writing about cases. The very fact that if you write about these cases, uh, the courts are capable of holding you in contempt. But what I see should happen is that after the cases have been adjudicated, there should be legal research, there should be legal study of those things so that in other spheres of uh, legal discussion, there will be somebody who will look at some of these things that the researchers have dealt with that can hold water. In a society where legal analysis, where legal study is not strong, there is the serious thing that can happen for people, especially new lawyers, to be able to really strengthen their own thinking about law. You cannot dismiss that. It is very much important.
Yeah, the next one is Alexander, and Alexander has been a very strong supporter of LSA. He's in Russia. He's a
Mhm,
Russian student,
mhm.
and I think for the past 3 years he's been giving papers at the LSA. And Alexander focused on the religious dimension of the Liberian electoral campaigns.
Yeah.
And I wish he would come to Liberia because I did ask him. He says that there's a religious aspect, but I personally don't feel like um the religious leaders have any sway over the voters, because I think that they're all corrupt. But but that's just me.
No, but I
I'm
thought
sorry, Prof.
that's why they will have sway over people if they are all corrupt. Whatever they say is going to hold water, and therefore they might run with it. That's why people go to their what they call their religious leaders and what have you and all that. It's a sad thing, but the reality is that these people, because they bring even their corruption to religious teachings and what have you, they have a way of swaying people to vote for their own candidates.
Yep. And then we had our own Dr. Samuel Y. Johnson Jr.
Yeah.
Prof, you know about economics. So
Well,
what was his background?
the thing about it is they in so many words, his presentation was posing the question of what drives the energy to protest or to not protest, even in the
Yes.
what, even in the face of unemployment. Is
Unemployment,
it
yeah.
the fear of relapsing into war? Is it one of people being afraid of government ruthlessness, or is it that people are fatigued? They try as much as possible to protest, and yet nothing good comes out of it. So which is which?
Sometimes they say at least we're not at war, and
Yeah,
I'm not going to make light of it,
yeah,
because I didn't go through the war, so I would never say, oh, they're wrong. But
yeah.
sometimes negative peace is no peace.
Hmm.
But at least you're not running. So that's another thing. People say, we've been running for 14
Yeah,
years, and so
yes,
at least we're not running,
and
so that could be the sky effect.
yes, and the thing about it is that that is what some of the current actors, government actors, that is what they take advantage of and do whatever they want to do, believing that believing that people will not so easily go to war. But that is a sad miscalculation. You see, because human beings are not robots. It will get to a point where they say, you know, let what may happen, but we are going to do this, we are going to do that. So they should not be complacent to a kind of drag people to a point of becoming impatient and doing whatever they want to do to disturb that country.
And our own Cyril Broderick, I swear, Prof, it was so scientific.
Mm.
Maybe you can explain Dr. Broderick's paper.
The thing about population growth, population growth, and a variety of climatic conditions and what have you. The question is, do you keep to the one staple food as rice to grow, or do you diversify agricultural activities? I think normally that's at the heart of what he talks about. Do not focus only on rice. You have plantains, you have edos, you have
Tuber,
all these
tuber. I
things.
remember he said
Tuber,
tuber.
tuber, yeah, okay. tuber that has to do with cassava and yams, for instance. So uh, agricultural diversity is very much important to be able to feed a large number of people as time goes on. So his message of making sure that as population grows and so many climatic activities occur and what have you, there has to be the diversification of agricultural activities.
And then of course we had Donald with partnerships in development and nation building.
Yes,
Yeah.
massive and intensive collaboration is very much in. He talking about that. He talked about the need for shrewdness. Uh, what kind of partners are we dealing with? What are they engaged in, and what have you? For people to understand, for people to get a lot out of collaboration, people have to be very careful about those they are engaged with. And I think that's very much important. One of the things I had hoped to talk about there has to do with, would you keep a compendium of people you are dealing with so that whenever there was a program, whenever there was a project, you could go to the compendium and be able to identify uh, sincere and decent collaborators for you to be able to draw a lot from the project? That's the question. But without having that compendium, I don't know how they are going to deal with it.
And then, of course, we had Dr. Kofa talking
Yeah.
about
Hmm.
disaster management in the new
Yes.
millennium.
Yes.
Yeah, which
Yes.
was very good about the sanitary conditions in Liberia.
Yes. And he also talked about the role of developed countries, the role of developed countries in being able to partner very well with developing countries, so that even though developing countries are getting the brunt of climate change, nothing is being done to help them out. His appeal was to go to developed countries and see how much help they can provide developing countries. I think he has a seminar coming up, and that theme that he drove in at the conference, he he wants to drive that same theme come the November conference.
Yeah. For those listening, that was the Liberian Studies Conference
Yeah.
Association conference this year. We had eminent speakers to talk about
Yeah.
repositioning Liberia in different areas.
Yeah.
You know,
Health,
yeah,
education, sanitation, history.
socioeconomic
Yeah.
history. Yeah.
Yeah. Agriculture, farming, environment, and
So
all this.
the next Liberian Studies Association conference will be held next year, probably in April. It will be at Cornell University. So for those of you listening or who would listen for later on, please, if you have a paper that you're working on, we're saying that, once the CFP comes up,
Mhm.
try and submit your paper and come to the conference and join the Liberian Studies Association. You can register just to give your paper. You don't have to be a member, but we urge you to also become a member of the Liberian Studies Association. So, Prof, what
Yeah.
say you?
No, again, our perhaps some people do not understand what we do here, especially with the literary hour. We are interested in both content and the processing of content. We are interested in both the content and the processing of content. If there is a bit of history, we talk about history. If there is a bit of literature, we talk about literature. How we absorb these things and grow confidence to be able to spread the news, that is what we do here. The LSA, as we began saying earlier on, the LSA is a serious forum where we encourage conversations, where we encourage dialogue with the hope of giving Liberia, Liberia and Liberians the strength to think critically and be able to provide the financial and material support that will sustain us as a nation. I am always glad to be part of these things because that set of things provide the reason of being. Our reason, the raison d'etre, as we say, the reason of existing is part of being able to get out information. That information is turned into knowledge. The knowledge relates into skills, and that is how we can sustain ourselves as part of the human family.
Yeah, and and the LSA is more than just a coming together to discuss Liberia. It. I mean, since 1968, it's like a community, a family,
Mhm.
uh, um, a commune, or
Mhm.
however you want to call it. We get together, we keep tabs on each other.
Mhm.
We visit each other.
Mhm.
We strategize about things that should be discussed in Liberia, are being discussed in Liberia, and will be discussed in Liberia. So we ask you to join us, next year. Go on the website, the Liberian Studies website, and get to know about the Liberian Studies Association. I'm going to put the website up, and then you just visit it. Oh, this is what they do, and then get involved. You can always send us an email. The email is Liberian Studies Association at gmail.com, and get involved in the LSA. So Prof, and Prof and I we took a long trip. Went
Yeah,
down to Maryland. I got my prof, and we drove to North Carolina, all
yeah.
the way arguing and discussing, which was very good. So
Mhm.
so and next year he wouldn't have long far way to go, because Ithaca is right here, Prof. You're gonna come to
Yeah,
Ithaca,
yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah, hopefully, yeah.
We have a panel on literature.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we thank you for joining us. Today we know the weather is very nice outside, but like Prof says, we will be here on Friday at six
yeah,
o'clock every time. So just
yeah.
join us. And
Mhm.
we always say, if you want to for us to read a book, you want to come on and discuss the book.
Yeah,
If you've written a book and you want us to discuss it, let us know.
yeah,
Focus on Liberia. I guess you can send it to them, and they will
yeah,
contact us. So we
precisely.
want, yes. So we want to thank you. We want
Yeah,
to Prof.
yeah.
I hope you enjoy the weekend, and you don't stay in the house reading. I saw you were reading all the time. You should go out and enjoy the sunshine.
Well, it depends on the book. Sometimes you find some of these interesting books, and you can't lay them down. You just want to read and read. Or whatever the case, we'll try to make do.
So yeah,
Yeah,
thank you, Prof. Yeah, and
yeah,
and thanks to those of you who are watching. And like we say, the Liberian Studies Association is there, and it's part of the Liberian Society, and we are all Liberians. So until next time, next
yeah,
Friday, we say thank you. Have a safe and
yeah.
blessed weekend.
Thank you.
We are Liberians. Liberians.